Dawson Rider review.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the season finale, series finale for Power Rangers Beast Morphers Season 2 in the US. So, coming off of last week, Evengix's plans are in full force, and we face off against him in this final battle. And at the very beginning parts of the episode, they're trying to figure out a way to defeat him, and Steel ends up sacrificing himself. There was kind of a lot of foreshadowing for this, and we knew about it from the description that somebody was going to sacrifice himself. And you know, it's kind of the inverse of Go Busters because it was gold in that one. But I kind of assumed it was going to be Steel. Like, sort of like the Evox Unleasehed twist that a lot of us could see coming, or at least theorized. This was something I could see coming even before we got the episode descriptions, that Steel would probably sacrifice himself and come back as human, or just come back, period. And that's obviously what ended up happening, but Steel's sacrifice acted as a motivator for the Rangers coming into the final battle, and also gave them a way to defeat him. And I'm not so sure about how they did that. I mean, they were talking about how they merged with human DNA, and he couldn't handle that. And like, that's kind of, it was like, we're gonna get him with human DNA and that'll defeat it. And I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm a little mixed on that. Like, when I first reviewed it, I kind of liked some of the aspects of it, but it is a little bit weird considering some past things too, and it doesn't necessarily make complete sense. But I thought it was okay. It does seem like a rather anticlimactic end to Venjix, but I'll talk about more with that in a second as well, because it's, you know, it's possible that he's out there again, you know, like Palpatine, he just keeps coming back. Who knows, but there's a possibility there. But it wasn't perfect, it was a little anticlimactic, and I can agree with some people that had said that, even, like I talked about last week, how, you know, Evox wasn't as cool or smart of a villain as Venjix, but then they, you know, merged, and so it was like a complete version of him. But even still, this kind of felt like a generic end, and it could have been a little bit more cool, but maybe our expectations were just so high for it. There was also kind of a neat moment in this episode where they used some of the gear from the Ranger Vault in a battle, and they had ones from like Ninja Steel and SPD. I think, did they use one of the Lightspeed ones? But that was pretty cool to see. Like, I do like how they used the Ranger Vault throughout this season. I'll probably bring this up again if I do my series review, which I will, but I brought this up both in the international airings and my season review, but I kind of wish they had teed up or foreshadowed the Ranger Vault even more in the beginning of the season instead of the second half. But since it was introduced, it's actually been a pretty important element to a lot of the episodes in this second half, especially in the first stretch of episodes heading through the Dino team up, and then obviously for Venjix finding his morpher to repair himself. And so then I liked that we got to use it in this one. It was just kind of cool to see them wielding those weapons, again, the legendary weapons and Ninja Steel. There was again questions that came up about, like, why would they have SPD? But SPD's traveled back multiple times. I did a theory video about what if SPD is in a different dimension, and I'll probably self-promote that here. But presuming SPD is still in the future, which is like 5 years from now, it's not that weird that they have their tech, because, I mean, Jen and all the others left the Time Force Morphers with Wes and Eric, and they communicate with for the future. So presuming they're keeping SPD in the same world, just kind of think about it like that. It's very possible they're in communication with SPD somehow in the future. It's weird, it's like communicating with Austin 5 minutes from now, but I know that it's a little bit confusing, but I feel like of all the things that I want answers about that they gloss over, this is one that's pretty easy to use some sort of logic, even a little bit of stretch logic, to figure out. But regardless, that was a cool scene. And then obviously Steel comes back at the end, and he becomes human because they fired their DNA at Venjix, and when you do that, you know what happens. You become human. And so he becomes this little guy, and I'm very mixed on this in multiple different ways. I knew it was gonna happen, I knew it. I mean, I get what they were going for with the actor looking kind of more like he's related to Nate, but it's just, it doesn't fit Steel for me. It just doesn't fit, especially since they use Steel's voice. I don't like it. They turned one of my favorite characters into this guy, and I wish they would have either kept him as Steel or picked an actor that looked like he fit Steel more. Like, I don't know if the guy that does the stunt double work for him, like, there's been pictures behind the scenes of the guy that's in the Steel suit with the cast. I don't know if he does the voice. I don't think so, maybe. Or if he does anything acting related, but he fit. Like, he felt like, maybe it's because I've seen pictures with him, but like his stature and everything felt like that would have fit. I don't know, it just felt very ill-fitting, and especially with him using the voice, it felt weird, and I didn't like it. And as I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned it last week, I mentioned it in the Silver Switch episode, I think that it could have been more of an opportunity, especially with how much Power Rangers loves to preach, of a storyline about accepting who you are. I mean, because Steel, it was part human even when he was the robot form. If it would have been more about accepting who he was, but somehow they just found a way for him to taste ice cream. So I don't know, I have some mixed thoughts on that. I think they handled this type of storyline way better in Overdrive with Mac, even if that also had kind of a cheesy ending. But he became human after he already accepted who he was, and I don't know. I guess by doing it this way you make it a little bit different, but I'm just very mixed on that overall. I'll try to give some more detailed thoughts in the future, like series wrap videos and whatnot, but I just wanted to highlight that I'm mixed on that. And then you do get a little bit of epilogue-y stuff. Devin is now the commander, which I mentioned, unless I missed something, they only really teed that up in the episode where Robo-Bloxy, that's their ship name, Robo-Blaze was trixing him? Wow. Trixing is just for kids. When Robo-Blaze was tricking him, that was the first time they ever mentioned, like, oh, you could be the commander in the future. And I think it was cool to see Devin as the commander, but I wish there would have been more setup for it. As I mentioned, that, like, most of the time during the series, there were a lot of times, there was moments where they wrote him as like, oh, I'm gonna go play video games, I don't care, because they needed that for the plot. And I feel like Ravi actually would have been a more fitting choice based on previous storylines. Maybe it's just me. Again, I didn't mind seeing him, I think he looked kind of cool there, it felt right in a way, but I would have liked to seen more of a progression towards that. Something I'll bring up more in the series review as well. But I think Ravi felt more natural for it. Ravi is, I mean, I'm presuming he still works there, but he, you know, is painting with Roxy and his mom's kind of learning to cut loose a little bit. Cut loose is just painting. There was some question in the international review of, oh, she not work there anymore, but I think they made it clear she's promoted. Like, she got promoted and Devin has her job, kind of like how Kruger got promoted and Sky became the head of SPD Earth, Decker Ranger thing. So she does still work there, she's just promoted. But I almost, like I said, would like to seen Ravi in that spot, because it could have been like, he's related to the commander, I feel like there was more of a track there, and maybe he would have been running a more understanding open grid battle force with like the relationships and stuff. I don't know about that. And Nate's a stunt double. Steele's a stunt double, and you just kind of check in with all the Rangers doing their stuff, but they're all still Rangers, which that is kind of a cool touch, that they're going to continue protecting from whatever threats arise, because, you know, most seasons the Rangers hang up their helmets, so it's kind of rare to have a season like that, especially since I always like to make fun of how the Rangers, unlike regular superheroes, like when they defeat their when they defeat Dylan, wait, RPM connection, it works. When they defeat their villain, they're just kind of done. It'd be like if Batman was like, well, I defeated Mr. Freeze or the Joker, I'm done. Oh, but sir, Two-Face is attacking. I'm done. That's for the next Batman. Then, of course, they had to sour it by ending with a Great to Be Human dance number, which, I hate you! They did have one last surprise RPM cameo, which was Colonel Truman, or as I like to say, Colonial, because that's the way it looks like when it's spelled, bringing in Scrozzle, who had escaped to the RPM dimension. Kind of a cool last-minute cameo. It did kind of make me wonder if they were setting up for the maybe far future, if Scrozzle somehow put a backup of Venjix in the RPM dimension. It just seemed like kind of a weird thing to include, like leaving a bit of a ... but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But overall, I thought this was a decent but mixed finale, but I think it was a solid end to this season. I'm going to sort of rewatch some stuff and do a series review overall and give my thoughts there. But what did you think of the final episode and the season finale arc for Beast Morphers? What did you think of the series overall with its RPM connections? Let me know in the comments as usual. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can just my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.